So now that we've been introduced to two different forms of linear relations, I'm going to introduce you to some weird situations. So the first one I'm going to introduce you to is this table of values. Okay, so I want you to look closely at it. There's no equation here yet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when x equals -2, y equals 3. When x equals -1, y still equals 3. X equals 0, y equals 3. X equals 1, y equals 3. X equals 2, y equals 3. So let's graph it. So it's pretty straightforward. -2 and 3, -1 and 3, 0 and 3, 1 and 3, 2 and 3. Draw your line. Okay, so how do we describe this relation? It is a straight horizontal line. So that's like a horizontal is a flat line. It's parallel, which means it runs in the same direction as the x-axis. And it's perpendicular, which means it runs opposite direction or meets at a 90-degree angle to the y-axis. The y-coordinate of every single point, no matter what my x value is, the y-coordinate of every single point is 3. Okay? So what would this equation be? You know, there's lots of different things you can think of. Well, it's increasing by 0 each time, which if you thought of it that way, you might actually eventually get to where you want to be. But it's even easier than that. The line is a special case, and its equation will only have one variable. And the equation is y equals 3. So anytime you have a case where your y value is always the same, whether it's 3, whether it's 10, whether it's a million, whether it's -50. Anytime you have a case where in your table of values or in your graph your y value is the same, you know you're going to have a straight horizontal line, a flat line. It'll be parallel to the x-axis, so it'll run along the x-axis. It'll be perpendicular to the y-axis. It will cross the y-axis at a 90-degree angle. And your equation will be y equals whatever that y-coordinate is. So if it's y is 100 every time, your equation is going to be y equals 100. If your y values are -50 all the time, your equation is going to be y equals -50. Okay, let's look at one more case. This one. So this time it's switched, and we have 4 for x and -2 for y, 4 for x, -1 for y, 4 for x, 0 for y, 4 for x, 1 for y, 4 for x, 2 for y. So let's graph it. So we get -2, or 4, -2, 4, -1, 4, 0, 1, and 2. Draw our line. Okay. So this one is a vertical. So vertical means straight up and down, a vertical line. It's perpendicular to the x-axis, so it crosses the x-axis at a 90-degree angle. And it's parallel to the y-axis, which means it runs in the same direction as the y-axis. The x-coordinate for every point is 4. So no matter if y is -2, +2, if y was 7, if y was -7, didn't matter. X was going to be 4. So can you write an equation? You might be able to now that you saw the last one. You saw the y equals. So this line is also a special case, and the equation will only contain one variable. So that variable in this case is x. So the equation for this line is x equals 4. And anytime you have a case where x is going to be the same every time, whether it's in a table of values or in a graph, your equation is going to be x equals whatever that number is. So if you have x equals any number, 2, 4, a million, -8, -a million, it doesn't matter. When you have x equals, it's going to be a vertical line, so it's going to stand straight up and down. It's going to be perpendicular to the x-axis, which means it's going to cross the x-axis at a 90-degree angle. And all points are going to have the same x value, which is whatever that number is. And if you have y equals a number, It's going to be a horizontal line. It's going to lay flat. It's going to be perpendicular to the y-axis, so it's going to cross the y-axis at a 90-degree angle. And all the points are going to have the same y value as whatever that number is.